my advice. So that's when I very early got into advising governments around either innovation or technology transfer or benefiting patients, because what I was saying is there's too much money given to research that doesn't benefit patients. And also, I then use the technology to look at autoimmune diseases. And people who have autoimmune diseases, their immune system is stimulated, often to react to their own body. So we could just take a drop of blood, put it on the array, and you could diagnose what was the antibody profile associated with this person. So we ended up between my group in the Max Planck and Protein looking at the blood of 20,000 people. And so I also did it very fundamentally, because if I was to study, we'll say, a disease of multiple sclerosis or alopecia, or if it was sudden adult death, right, that a lot of the time I found that the diagnosis was very sloppy, right? So that just, for example, we say in the multiple sclerosis group, I was saying to the clinicians, how do you know that these people you're saying have multiple sclerosis? Because on average, then it took 12 years for someone to be diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So the symptoms of autoimmune disease can often be chronic fatigue and other very generic symptoms. And it often happened that if they went to their local physician and the physician, had an interest in a particular autoimmune disease, or if they had symptoms of tiredness and they went to someone that was a general practitioner in Germany or a cardiologist, they would send them, with autoimmune related cardiology disease when it may not be. So what I did then was I spent about a year finding the key autoimmune groups in the world who were the absolute experts at defining the criteria for that disease. And then with them, we monitored people with that disease over, 10 years, taking blood samples at different time points. And when it was obvious that they were full-blown, autoimmune dilated cardiomyopathy or alopecia or multiple sclerosis, we would then study the late-stage samples, but also the early-stage samples before they had full-blown symptoms on these high-content protein arrays to get a profile of what people are at late stage, and what's more important is at early stage, because it turns out with autoimmune diseases, and in my company we did clinical trials with 20,000, is that if they are diagnosed early with the symptoms of arthritis or alopecia or autoimmune disease or whatever it is, if you look at their balance of nutrition and minerals and vitamin D and vitamin C, you can actually reduce the severity of the symptoms or eliminate them, so that we would say, and I've been lecturing, is that they may be predisposed to have a very severe autoimmune disease. But if they actually get the balance of vitamin D and vitamin C correct, they won't have the symptom.
Yeah. Actually, I'll pause you there. That's an interesting point, Dolores, because I remember for myself personally, I used to have quite severe eczema in high school going into university. And I don't know why I was looking at omega-3s. And I found that at that time I was taking extra supplements of omega-3s and the eczema completely disappeared. And then years later, I thought to myself, did I just imagine it? So I stopped taking it for, say, 6 months, and the symptoms came back. So it without a shadow of a doubt, each individual potentially has a risk. And it's almost as if we have to work out that risk personally to try and identify where it is. So for someone else, it's not that. It may be magnesium or vitamin D or vitamin C, but each person then has to be able to work that out. I'm assuming your work can't demonstrate that.
Oh, no, we were involved in doing that with 20,000 patients, right? So that was groundbreaking at the time, right? Because we were working with key, clinicians in the area. But exactly as you said, what I would say, I would not be a fan of like just taking multivitamins or whatever, right? So this is now, this is for 30 years. So the Nobel Prizes for vitamin D and vitamin C were 70 years ago. So really, when I was educated, which is, we'll say, almost 2 generations ago now, right? We're talking 40 years ago or so, right? Or at least as well that the people who taught me when I was in Trinity and doing my PhD, they would have been in university, 30 years before, right?
Yeah.
So, and the Nobel Prizes for the vitamins were at the time when they would have been in university, we'll say in the 1950s and 1960s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was in university, we'll say in the 80s and do my PhD in the 90s. So, of course, they were lecturing us about the importance of nutrition and things like zinc and, magnesium and food, right? And that the food had to be nutritious, which it was then, right? And, of course, that was very well known that you could actually reduce the symptoms, right? So which is what I did. But the thing was what my technology with high-content protein arrays, it was showing that, we'll say for multiple sclerosis, it took 12 years at that time for people to be accurately diagnosed. So I also worked with a company in America that were focusing on collecting blood samples already when I contacted them for 15 years, right? And so that we were able to show, so the whole issue with this thing is if you treat them with supplements for multiple sclerosis and the symptoms stop, everybody would be saying, well, how do you know, right? And maybe the people that have full-blown symptoms are in wheelchairs have a different type of multiple sclerosis, right? Mm-hmm. So what we showed is that the people who had full-blown multiple sclerosis, we had the samples from 10 years before, that when they took the proper nutrition, their symptoms were alleviated. And we also showed that people who were early stage, because once we had our testing for alopecia or sudden adult death, autoimmune related, that then that test, the sudden adult death test, was immediately transferred in Germany because it was so life-saving. Yeah. That people could then be diagnosed as autoimmune related, and then Professor Felix had a process to dampen down the immune system, and they fully recovered, and they did not die, and they did not need heart transplants, right? So that was basically by using other people who had collected samples over 15 years, and by dealing, that was I'm very strategic, right? By dealing with the top labs in the world, because our technology was so groundbreaking, that when you collaborate with the experts in the world, there is no question then that the patients that we were using were properly diagnosed, because a lot of the time they have a group of patients called a cohort, that those patients and families have a relationship with the research group, and they consent